Mark and Cindy Wilkins are my guest. We're talking about a situation that happened 7 years ago when Cindy had to have her hands and feet amputated. So when we left, Mark, you're at the hospital. You're being told that your wife has to be put into a medically induced coma. What were you thinking? I mean, as a dad and as a husband, as I'm reading your story from your perspective, I mean, it was chaotic. I mean, you must have been in shock and stunned.
I was in shock, absolutely. I was going through the motions, if you will. I called our family and friends, the people closest to Cindy, to tell them to come to the hospital, that Cindy's dying, and you should be coming to say your goodbyes. They brought Cindy up to the ICU, and I was in the waiting room there, and it was completely quiet. I was the only one in the ICU waiting room, weirdly enough. And the only book that was in there was the Bible, sitting on a table beside me. And I reflected back upon my life, our lives together, and I thought, you know, I call myself a Christian. I've never read the Bible. I'm a hypocrite. I need to start reading the Bible. If I need God, it's right now. And so I started reading the Bible that day, and I have not stopped studying the Word since. 2.5 weeks into Cindy's coma, it was not looking good. The doctors every day were saying she's not going to make it. She's probably going to die today. They were real hope killers at that point,
Yeah, well, I know they try to be realistic.
Right.
But again, it seemed like, boy, they don't think she's going to make it.
No, it was not looking good. And I came home from the hospital one night, and we had family and friends at our place that were looking after my children and just helping out. And they're just so helpful. And one of my friends pulled me aside and said, Mark, you know, we've been talking, and we're not sure if you've thought about this, but you know, Cindy probably doesn't want to live. You know, you look at her hands and her feet, they're all black. They probably have to cut them off, amputate. The doctors say she probably has brain damage. You may want to think about pulling the plug. She may not want to live. And I never even thought of that.
That wasn't something that even crossed your mind?
It didn't cross my mind until that point. And it upset me. And I was like, you know, it's not my decision. I jumped back in my car, drove to the hospital, crying my eyes out. I went right into the ICU, and it was about midnight, and the nurses, you know, I said to them, I have to pray with my wife. And it was the first time I said a real honest prayer to God, and I went on my knees right beside Cindy in ICU. And I said, God, I need to know if Cindy wants to live, if she wants to die, if she needs more time, if I should pull the plug. And I went home that night, went to bed. Next day, back at the hospital, having lunch with some friends, and my phone rang, and I let it go to voicemail. After lunch, I checked the voicemail. It was my mother-in-law, who had no idea the conversation I had with my friend the night before, or that I even was at the hospital the night before, and what I prayed. And she left me a message, and Barb said, Mark, I'm supposed to leave you this message. I've heard voices all morning saying Cindy wants to live. She needs more time. Don't pull the plug. And I was supposed to leave you this message, so there it is. Goodbye. And she hung up.
Well, obviously, the Lord intervened. Cindy, you are brought out of the coma. And I think, to me, one of the most touching aspects of your book is when you look up and you see these kind, gentle eyes that's going to have to deliver some pretty difficult news to you. Tell me about that.
The intensity of love in Mark's eyes really took me back. I don't think I will ever forget it. It's the look of love that tells you where Jesus is in trial. And he looked down at me and said, you've been very ill and they've had to amputate your hands and feet. And he proceeded to tell me we would get our lives back and that he loved me for my soul. And that was why he first fell in love with me.
I know you have had to deal with a lot of things, and we're going to get into your story in a program next month, hopefully. But you find out now he's following Jesus. I mean, tell me about, I know you would never want to go through what you've gone through, no. But look what the result was.
Well, you know, Romans 8:28.
One of my favorite verses.
Yeah.
All things
God
work
will make
together.
good.
Yeah, he does.
And he certainly did. He took this little family of 4, and if you include my parents, 6, and who thought they believed in Jesus and found out they really didn't, and what Jesus could do for them. And he walked us through every moment. And even today, when I walk across icy patch, or I have to do something I don't know how to do without hands and feet, he's right there holding my hand.
Well, you guys are terrific, and I know you had difficulties in your marriage, like all of us do. They get married, but the Lord has turned something that was maybe not going to make it into something so beautiful. So happy Valentine's Day.
Thank
Your story is inspiring, and Cindy is a terrific speaker, and you are too, Mark.
Thank you.
And you know, I invite this wonderful couple to your church, or because I know you're doing not only church things, but business things. So the opportunity that the Lord has given you has been tremendous. And one of the things they've been sharing here today, Mark and Cindy, is about personal relationship with Jesus. You can go to church, but maybe not know him. And I think if you've heard anything today, you know, God has a plan. It doesn't always go the way we think it is. He'll take bad things and turn it to good. So if you're going through that today, if you've never experienced Jesus, or you're going through a rough patch, we have prayer people standing by. 1-866-273-4444. Call now. Again, thank you guys, and we'll be back with more of 100 Huntley Street right after this.